Toru, a young man who tends to be weak and timid, is trapped in the shadows of a dark past. Despite that, Toru bravely enrolls in an academy to become an alpha, seeking an opportunity to change his fate. His transformation begins when Toru is forced to share a bed with the most popular and attractive girl in the academy. The strength within him slowly starts to emerge. On a bright Monday in spring, while Toru was on his way to the academy, the sound of bee bells from a girl captivated him. It was the sound of Julie, and he instantly became obsessed with her beauty. However, after Julie left, another girl appeared and offered to walk with him. The girl informed Toru that at the academy, there were no tuition fees to be paid. All educational expenses, accommodation, and food were covered. All the students there focused on intense combat training. Upon arriving at the arena, they heard an announcement for the entrance ceremony, marking the beginning of a hopeful new life at the academy. Shortly after, Toru and the other students sat together, eagerly awaiting a greeting from Sakuya, the student council president. Sakuya enthusiastically welcomed them and began explaining the routine ceremony for new students. Sakuya asked each student to pair up with the person next to them. As Sakuya explained that they would duel each other, the atmosphere started to feel strange. The tension rose when Sakuya added that the losers would face unexpected consequences. As the students began arguing with each other about the duel, Imari, one of the students, stood up and questioned the decision. Sakuya then explained that the duel was part of the entrance exam for the academy. Amidst the confusion, Toru, hoping to avoid trouble, asked if he could switch partners so he wouldn't have to worry about Imari's father stalking him. Unfortunately, his request also violated the rules that had been set. After Imari told Toru to keep all his worries to himself, Sakuya immediately ordered all the students to begin the duel. With fiery enthusiasm, Julie and her partner activated their flames, starting an exciting battle. The other students followed suit, and soon, bodies started to fall. The weak were quickly defeated, leaving only the strong and experienced. Watching this intense fight, Toru couldn't help but recall traumatic events from his past. Those memories haunted his thoughts, making him more anxious. However, Imari quickly snapped Toru out of his déjà vu, ready to start their duel. Imari activated her flames, but Toru, still hesitant, refused to do the same. Instead, Imari attacked, nearly making a hole in the floor as Toru narrowly dodged. After avoiding 2 more attacks, Toru caught Imari and asked her to surrender. He didn't want to send Imari to the emergency room. As the situation grew more intense, suddenly, an axe flew towards Toru's head. In a split-second emergency, Toru quickly activated his flames and managed to block the attack. Imari looked confused. Usually, flames were weapons formed from one's soul, but for some reason, Toru's had turned into a shield instead. With excitement, Imari exclaimed that he was an unpredictable person. Imari stepped back a few paces, vowing to defeat Toru. As he attacked, Toru's past memories flashed before him again, but this time, he was determined to focus on the fight. Cleverly, Toru knocked Imari's sword out of his hand and apologized before striking. Toru delivered a powerful punch to Imari, even cracking his ribs, sending him flying backward. At the same time, Sakuya called for time and announced that the loser would have to take home what was left of their shattered pride. The atmosphere became tense, and all eyes were on them, waiting to see how this battle would conclude. Moments later, Imari seemed surprised that no one had called an ambulance. With a serious tone, he explained that only their souls could be hurt, since the flames were directly connected to them. After thinking for a moment and recalling his lenient attitude toward Toru, Imari told him to stop pretending to be Superman. In this academy, only the strongest could survive, and Toru needed to be ready to face that reality. To make sure Toru wouldn't forget his words, Imari gave his chest a determined shake before walking away. Not long after that, Toru was walking down the hallway, trying to adjust his sore shoulders, when he heard a familiar voice. Turning around, he saw Aoi, an old friend who always tried to hide the chaos of his life behind a laid-back Sigma personality. Aoi told Toru that they were lab rats injected with Lucifer to activate their flames so the academy could study its effects. Meanwhile, Toru ran ahead of them to class. As soon as he entered, the atmosphere felt different. His classmates were friendly, but Toru just sat quietly at his desk. However, the calmness was suddenly broken when Julie walked into the room. Everyone seemed hypnotized by her beauty. When Julie called Toru's name, he was both surprised and confused. Julie greeted him and sat next to him, making things a little awkward. Toru felt awkward trying to talk to her, but Julie kept avoiding eye contact, as if she couldn't bring herself to look directly at him. Amidst the confusion, a cheerful teacher, who seemed to be obsessed with rabbits, jumped onto the desk. The teacher introduced herself as Rito, their instructor. After asking all the students to introduce themselves, Rito told them that their student IDs also functioned as credit cards loaded with hundreds of thousands each month. Rito then began explaining the school system, which required them to choose a partner for the rest of the school year. At that moment, Toru asked how this was relevant to their training. Rito explained that after graduation, they would join the forces of the Dawn Agency, and because of that, it was important for them to have a partner. Rito added that official pairings would take place over the weekend, but they would need to start living with a temporary partner. Toru tried to approach Aoi for some clarity, but Aoi revealed that their partnership was only temporary, just like their current seating partners. Toru felt desperate as he tried to argue against being paired with Julie. However, Rito described Julie's mental state so clearly that it almost gave Toru a headache. In that moment, Rito used her melon power to silence Toru, leaving everyone in an awkward silence. That night, Aoi was forced to kick Toru out of his room and told him to go find his partner. After rehearsing what to say, Toru walked into the room and saw no one there. Feeling relieved, he thought maybe Julie didn't want to stay with him either. However, that calm feeling didn't last long. A few moments later, Julie walked out of the bathroom wearing only a nightshirt. Her distracting appearance immediately messed with Toru's mind, frying all his dopamine receptors. At the table, after a few minutes of trying to sound confident while talking, Toru suddenly noticed the girl crawling towards him. Toru began battling his inner demons, backing up until he was pinned against the wall. Reflexively, Julie threw a punch at his stomach and asked him to teach her how to take down Imari. When Toru warned her that it was a dangerous skill that could hurt her, Julie began to feel sleepy. She complained of being tired, and before Toru realized it, she had already passed out, curled up in his lap. After having a brief panic attack, Toru carried her to bed, tucked her in, and turned off the lights. But after that, Toru couldn't sleep. When Julie woke up, Toru made her some apple tea. After serving it, Toru proposed a mutually beneficial partnership between them until they were officially paired, and Julie accepted his offer. The next morning, Toru woke up and saw Julie sleeping next to him. Panic set in immediately, and Toru checked to make sure no boundaries had been crossed. Fortunately, Julie was already awake, and they exchanged greetings. Toru tried to ask why Julie had slept in his bed, but the clear image of her face in his mind made it hard for him to focus. After having breakfast in the cafeteria, Toru overheard his classmates talking about him, hoping he wouldn't lose too many aura points. As they sat down, Tomo suddenly appeared with Miyabi and asked to join them. Once they sat, Miyabi's melons seemed to briefly shut down Toru's brain. Tomo then started teaching him the proper way to get his nutrients, while Miyabi hid behind Tomo, trying to avoid Toru's awkward gaze. Not long after, the other students left, and Tomo continued her lecture, which seemed annoying to both of them, especially since they were the only mixed-gender duo there. Julie then told Tomo that she was fine with Toru, which made Toru feel a bit better. In class, Rito explained their abilities, starting with the injection of Lucifer. With help from Tomo and Miyabi's melons, for the lecture, Rito then asked Toru, and the entire class focused intently, listening to the culture thoughts coming from his mind. Toru sat there, avoiding a scolding, while telling Julie to be more careful with her choice of words. Toru then complimented Julie's Japanese, saying it was pretty good thanks to her mother's help. However, realizing her writing skills were still at a toddler's level, Julie tried to ask about it but immediately felt embarrassed. Rito explained how important it was for them to get stronger and level up, as surviving a year without any progress could lead to expulsion. With that statement, Rito asked them to get ready for their first training class. At the sports field shortly after, Tomo's face was down in the dirt as she apologized to Toru for misunderstanding what Julie said. Tomo realized the negative impact her request had on her aura. Although Toru tried to stop her, as Tomo tried to stand up, she bumped into him and managed to grab a baby carrot. When they saw Julie watching them, she looked as though she thought they were trying to become wrestlers. A little while later, Julie started sparring with Tomo, and the entire class paused for a moment to watch their skills, which were already on par with pro MMA fighters. Aoi was impressed by Tomo's fighting ability, and immediately told Toru that Tomo came from an ancient martial arts school that trained the best fighters. However, Toru was more interested in Julie, who was also handling the fight exceptionally well. Aoi then asked Toru about the girl. Toru, shaking his head, replied that he wasn't paying much attention to anything except his already cooked rice since they were only going to live together for a week. They then decided to spar as well to test each other's strength. The girls were super enthusiastic, adjusting their appearances and complimenting each other. As the sun began to set, Toru was already outside the room waiting for Julie to finish her bath. A few moments later, while sipping tea, Toru told Julie that he had learned to fight on his own. He started talking about his childhood training with Aoi at a dojo. As the week went on, their classmates began avoiding sparring with Julie because they were afraid, so Toru helped her and ended up spending most of his time with her. The day before the partner selection, Aoi found Toru waiting for him and immediately called him a simp. Toru tried to deny the accusation and reminded him that they were going to be partners, though Aoi didn't seem as excited about it anymore. As they walked back together, Julie thanked Toru for spending the week with her and asked if he had already chosen a partner. Julie planned to ask Tomo, which made sense to her, so she also mentioned her plan to approach Toru. A little while later, they were standing under the cherry blossom tree, and Julie sincerely admitted that Toru had really caught her staring at him the first day they met. That night, Toru once again found her in his bed. As Toru tried to move away, he saw tears welling up in her eyes as Julie shared something about her father. Without hesitation, Toru took her hand, offering her a bit of comfort. The next day, the partner selection began, but with so many students crowding the area, Toru decided to come back later. On his way out, Toru saw Julie talking with Tomo. When they returned, they encountered two girls who seemed to be discussing something strange they had to do. After handing their ID cards to Yusa, Yusa gave them a cliché oath they were required to say. While trying to figure out the bizarre situation, Tomo and Miyabi appeared. Hearing that they had decided to become partners, Toru asked about Julie and Tomo, which made him feel a bit uneasy. Tomo then mentioned that Julie had declined Tomo's request to partner up. After apologizing to Aoi, Toru ran off to find Julie, searching the campus for her. He kept walking until he finally heard the distinct sound of beads coming from the direction of the clock tower. When Toru arrived, Julie said she was trying to look at her hometown. Toru then asked about the partnership. Julie casually replied that it didn't matter since she was already used to being alone, so Toru offered to be her partner. Despite listing all the reasons he felt unworthy as a partner, to avoid any misunderstandings later on, Toru insisted on partnering with her, using a wrist-locking move to break down the walls between them. Eventually, they activated their flames and recited the oath to formalize their partnership. That night, Julie was once again lying in his bed, but this time, Toru decided to set some boundaries and told her to sleep in her own bed. After a bit of back and forth, Julie confidently stated that Toru gave off a fatherly aura, and her father surely would have ignored such pride. In the end, Toru decided to let her sleep with him again. The next day in class, Rito arranged the seating according to their chosen partners. As usual, Toru tried hard to convince his classmates that he was innocent. After that, Rito announced the setup for a mock flame battle, aimed at testing the strength of their duo. Rito informed them that they would be fighting anyone except their own partners. Later, Toru trained with Julie in the forest and, unfortunately, lost for the 4th round in a row. Julie commented that Toru was even weaker than a fully aware Senetsu. Slightly defensive, Toru blamed his inability on the shield he was using, so Julie offered to give him some tips. Julie tried to slip in a kiss while demonstrating a move, but Toru was too confused to understand her intention. Julie then explained that she had learned the move after watching Thor in Infinity War, and told him to give it a try. As the energy release nearly broke a tree branch, Toru remarked that it was a dangerous skill. He didn't like using it because it could hurt others. As Toru was about to leave, he spotted Miyabi right before she fainted from exhaustion after running too much. A few moments later, Toru carried her on his back. However, Miyabi soon woke up and started squirming, making his balance waver due to her sweaty melons and rice cakes. After some time, Miyabi finally calmed down. Toru explained that he was going to take her to the hospital, and Miyabi thanked him. She then shared that the excessive training was because she didn't want to hold Tomo back with her Sakura-level skills. Smiling, Toru suggested that Miyabi try watching a David Goggins podcast for some motivation. In a dark past, Toru once found his comrades lifeless and burned in their dojo. In his dream, Toru saw a swordsman strike down a girl who tried to approach him, and he woke up with fear gripping his heart. The next night, Rito made an announcement that electrified the atmosphere, signaling the start of the mock battle. Rito gave them 2 hours to defeat their opponents. After discussing their plan to take down whoever they encountered, Toru and Julie ignited their flames with enthusiasm. As soon as they dashed in, their first opponent launched a surprise attack, but they easily took him down. After successfully defeating another duo, they encountered 2 girls dressed in nurse outfits with corn hubs striking enough to cause a distraction. Julie quickly prepared and took them out. With 1 hour left and most of the competition eliminated, they decided to head inside the school building. They had barely made it through the hall when suddenly, Tomo appeared, launching a chain mace attack. After discussing how excited they were to finally find out who was stronger, they began their duel. Toru easily blocked Tomo's attack, so Tomo decided to get serious, and used a special technique that blocked all escape routes in the hall. On the other hand, Miyabi had already activated her flames, but the spear she held was too heavy for her. Eventually, Miyabi attacked Toru, who quickly used his shield to fend off the attack. A few seconds later, Miyabi admitted defeat and felt sad, but Toru encouraged her to keep practicing so she could reach his level. While they were doing positive affirmations, Julie stood tall, seemingly unfazed by anything, effortlessly blocking every attack Tomo threw at her. Julie made all those attacks look like just a walk in the park. After securing the victory, Julie told Tomo to try fighting with her head next time. A little while later, Tomo left with Miyabi. Meanwhile, Toru was telling Julie about his argument with Aoi when they heard a scream. Without hesitation, they ran toward the source of the sound, where they found Aoi unconscious next to Tatsu. Rito appeared with a worried expression, and they all tried to wait until Aoi could get back up. However, at that moment, Aoi warned them to be more careful. They all dodged just before Rito could do it, and in the confusion, Rito revealed her dark side, telling them to brace themselves for whatever might happen next. After checking himself, Toru found blood on his palm and became increasingly confused. Rito seriously explained that firearms could actually hurt people if used correctly and charged into attack. But before Rito could do that, Julie quickly stepped in to stop her. Without hesitation, Rito kicked Toru and almost slashed Julie's face. Rito explained that the flames from the weapon could heal people, but she also told them to keep it a secret. Next, Rito took Aoi's sword and destroyed it to demonstrate the pain it could inflict. Rito explained that anyone caught in the shattered flames would end up powerless for a full day. They were curious why Rito was trying to clap their hands, so Rito casually replied that it was how she got paid, then attacked them at super speed. Julie tried to block the attack, but she was thrown into the wall, and Tura felt his insides get wrecked after taking Rito's knee. Before Rito could finish him off, Julie tried to protect Tura, but she ended up getting knocked down again. With his shield, Tura blocked the flames that ignited again, but as he slowly pressed his flames on his shoulder, Rito called him weak, which immediately reminded Tura of his past. Feeling annoyed, Tura attacked to launch his finishing blow, but Rito managed to dodge, and his attack ended up destroying the classroom wall. After praising that attack, Rito blew up classrooms throughout the building, giving them little time to discuss tactics. However, before they could finalize their plan, Rito caught up to them. Julie decided to protect Tura. As Rito attacked, Tura jumped to protect his reputation as a Sigma, and started taking a barrage of attacks from Rito's sword with a tough attitude. After being forced to kneel, Rito told him to say his last words. However, at the last moment, Tura signaled Julie, and she quickly blocked Rito with her sword. Taking advantage of that opening, Tura charged up his fist to attack, and Rito thought she could dodge once again. But Rito quickly shifted her weight, and used her sword to block the attack. However, the force of the attack was too great, and eventually, her sword shattered in her hands. The next morning, they celebrated by enjoying a cup of tea while struggling with the lingering injuries. After hearing that Rito had been captured, Tura started to get confused, trying to understand what it all meant. However, the pain in his shoulder was becoming increasingly bothersome. Julie then got up to check on Tura, but accidentally fell right onto his injured shoulder. At that moment, Tomo came along with Miyabi, bringing some supplies, and was immediately shocked to find Tura lying on the floor. Tura tried to explain their situation, asking Julie about the reserves she mentioned, but Julie decided to pretend to be clueless again. That night, Tura had the same nightmare and woke up apologizing to Julie for screaming. Tura then walked towards the balcony to get some fresh air. A few moments later, Julie asked about someone Tura kept mentioning in his sleep. However, not long after that, Tura felt frustrated and went back to the room. Julie called him back and unbuttoned her shirt to show the scar on her back, revealing that she was just like Tura. The next day, Sarah was already waiting by the lake with a towel in hand, until a goddess who seemed full of plot, named Lilith, emerged from the water and took the towel. Lilith then stated that she wanted to meet someone. After dreaming about Julie's scar, Tura tried to go back to sleep, but his hand landed on something that felt strange. When Tura realized he was mishandling a melon, he tried to pull away, but the hand grabbed his and put it back. And as Tura tried to explain, he fell and hit his head. A few moments later, Tura asked if they were too small to be noticed, then apologized by repeatedly banging his head on the floor. Shortly after, they met Tomo and Miyabi before heading to class, where Tura was surprised to see Aoi and Ryutaro already back. Ryutaro tried to act tough despite being injured, but Tomo told him to stop pretending, as his injury was serious. Aoi thought Tura had told the girls about it, so Tura explained that they were the ones who helped after the fight with Rito. When Aoi thanked the girls by bowing, Tura got scared because he had never seen Aoi bow to anyone before, and his reaction made Miyabi feel anxious. After calming down, they started talking about Rito and hoped they wouldn't have to deal with her again. However, not long after, Rito entered and told them to sit down for the lesson. After class ended, Tura tried to leave when they stopped him and demanded to know why Rito was back after almost putting them all in a coffin. Before Rito could explain, Sakuya showed something, and they went to her office for an explanation. Sakuya told them that Rito had been reinstated as their instructor after they evaluated her methods and found them beneficial for their objectives. Tomo tried to reason with common sense, but Sakuya explained that the academy was willing to do whatever it took to achieve their goal of forming the perfect duo. As compensation for their near-death experience, Sakuya promised to ensure they would advance to level 2 after the upcoming sublimation ritual. While they were talking, Lilith arrived at the academy by helicopter. Not long after, in class, Rito taught them about the differences in power according to their levels, but Tura was lost in thought about everything that had happened. At that moment, Lilith entered the classroom, and everyone was captivated by her beauty as she walked toward Tura's desk. With her face just inches from Tura's, Lilith ordered him to follow her outside. However, Tura reminded her that they were still in class, and Lilith asked Rito for permission, which she gave without objection. Aoi tried to talk to her about her business, but Lilith told him to shut his tiny mouth. In the end, Tura decided to go with her, as if there was no other choice. A few moments later, Sarah served a cup of tea, which she claimed had a royal touch. Lilith got straight to the point, revealing that she would be his new partner. After Tura told her that he already had a partner, Lilith casually responded that it didn't matter. Lilith felt special and considered herself an exception. With full confidence, she admitted that she had come all the way from England just for Tura. However, Tura quickly remembered the Academy's rule that forbade changes to their partner selection. Lilith firmly asserted that the rule didn't apply to her, She then demanded a response from Toru, convinced that her display of feminine power would make him give in. But with a smile still fixed on his face, Toru brutally rejected her offer, thanking her for the tea before getting up to leave. Lilith tried to stop him, giving him a second chance to reconsider. Toru explained that he wasn't into all the nonsense about her arrogant trust fund. After that, Rito ordered Toru to run around the academy, as he was the only one who could be punished for the disruption. Toru was cooling off in the bath when Julie knocked on the door, saying she wanted to give him a towel. After Toru told her to drop it by the door, he saw Julie standing there, shivering for a moment before stepping back inside. After that, Toru made some tea and sat next to Julie to drink it. Julie then asked if she could share his bed again. Toru tried to refuse, but Julie's face and the memory of her melons made it hard for him to decide. In the end, Toru suggested they go out and shop for new clothes. They decided to visit the mall on their next break. Toru celebrated his success in avoiding sharing the bed, but his happiness disappeared instantly when Julie called to him from the bed and told him to come in. On their next break, they took a train to the city to visit the mall that Miyabi had recommended. Once they arrived, Toru began giving instructions to ensure Julie wouldn't get lost. Unfortunately, Julie had already been kidnapped by a group of kids on a school trip. After successfully rescuing her, they stopped for a moment to catch their breath, and Julie grabbed his hand, trying to avoid being kidnapped again. As they walked through the mall, people kept staring at them, so they decided to step into a store to escape the attention. However, when Julie entered the fitting room, the store owner couldn't help but gush about how beautiful she was. His obsession grew even more when Julie showed them the first outfit and decided to keep trying on more clothes. After paying for the clothes that would be shipped to them, they spent the rest of the day hopping from store to store, though Toru almost got kidnapped again. After shopping, they decided to take a break and have some gelato. Julie tried to persuade him to feed her, but Toru refused, considering himself too Sigma for something like that. Yet, once again, with the goddess-like charm Julie possessed, Toru eventually gave in and fed her. Not wanting to be outdone, Julie also offered to feed Toru, breaking all the stiff atmosphere that had been between them. Suddenly, Julie started acting as if she was drunk from too much rum raisin, and when she looked at Toru, it was as if she could see him in 3 places at once. Without them realizing it, Tomo and Miyabi had been secretly following them the whole time, and now it was time to reveal their cultural pursuits. When a group of ex-athletes approached them to talk, they tried to leave, but one of them grabbed Miyabi. After Tomo swatted his hand away, the group tried to use force, but suddenly Toru appeared with Julie to stop them. Before the fight could begin, 2 of the athletes collapsed from gunshots, and Toru turned to see Lilith using a rifle to take down 2 more. As shoppers began to gather, Lilith absorbed her rifle and left, and Toru finally understood what Lilith meant by being an exception. A few days later, the girls were trying to convince themselves that Lilith really did have a gun, so Toru explained what he saw. Julie reminded them of the usual method of weapon transformation, which was normally limited to regular weapons. Toru then wondered why Lilith was skipping school again. Meanwhile, Lilith was at home, happily polishing her double-barrel rifle while staring at photos of Toru. Not long after, Tomo jumped into the pool with a fast swimming style, as if she were possessed by the spirit of a dolphin, leaving the entire class in awe. They had all gone through the sublimation ritual to reach level 2, and while Toru was trying to figure out his new level, Aoi used a volleyball to part his friends like the Red Sea. Ryutaro, not wanting to be outdone, responded with a slam that triggered a mini tsunami. Toru then noticed Miyabi swimming while carrying a balloon. He tried to praise her for finally securing first place in a competition. After helping her, Miyabi accidentally stopped to stare at the lines on his abs and almost asked for a sausage when Tomo interrupted to give her praise. Soon after, they heard cheers from the other students who were excited to see Julie swim. After Julie dove in, everyone expected to see some mermaid swimming techniques, but after a minute passed, concern began to grow. Underwater, Julie was kicking her legs in one spot, as if she were confused. Toru dove in, and moments later, Julie resurfaced, surrounded by her friends, explaining that she hadn't taken swimming lessons back in her hometown. Toru looked shocked to learn there was something she wasn't skilled at. He handed her a towel to cool down, trying to stay positive about the near-fatal mistake that had just happened. Toru suggested they spend the rest of the day testing their new levels. Finally, when class ended, Toru walked with Julie, who then asked for swimming lessons. Just at that moment, Toru heard Lilith and left Julie to meet her. As usual, Toru tried to assert his dominance, explaining that he just wanted to know why Lilith was skipping class. Lilith responded by saying that she had already completed high school and was only there to pass the time. She told Toru that maybe that's why she was a loner and easily irritated. Toru tried to ask about the mall incident, but Lilith cut him off, saying she would only give him an answer if he agreed to go on a date. Just then, Lilith's helicopter landed, and a few minutes later, Rito was already in class, struggling to control her temper while their friends wondered where Toru had gone. Eventually, they found themselves at an amusement park, and Lilith couldn't stop acting like a dog that had just been let loose. After squeezing her arm into her chest, Lilith dragged Toru off to start their date. Meanwhile, Julie went to check the courtyard to see if Toru had returned. Toru spent the day being dragged around the park, losing aura points due to all the annoying activities and the beta-level vibe Lilith was creating for him. After giving Toru a little time to rest and ensure his sanity, they continued to a new spot where they could shoot monsters with laser guns. Seeing Lilith's shooting skills, Toru immediately complimented her, and then Lilith gave him a crash course on assembling some military-grade weapons. After Lilith scored the highest in the shooting game, they stepped outside just as fireworks started to go off, making the atmosphere even more festive. Toru then asked Lilith why she used her bonfire in public. Lilith replied that it was her way of putting on a special show for him. After stating that her chaotic fire shield made Toru the perfect partner, Lilith boldly set aside her feminist pride and asked him again to be her partner. However, Toru's response immediately deflated Lilith's spirit. Later, Julie had just finished her bath when Toru returned and noticed that the dorm was locked for the night. Julie signaled to him from above, so Toru jumped in and thanked her. But soon after, they heard the sound of a guard approaching, and Toru quickly pushed Julie aside. After the guard left, Toru began recounting his date with Lilith and also mentioned her second request for partnership, which he brutally rejected. Unlike the previous refusal, this time Toru decided to leave a lasting impression with some harsh words, even slapping before shouting that Lilith hated him and then storming off. Toru apologized to Julie for not telling her sooner, and Julie thanked him for choosing her. As the weather grew colder, Julie hugged him to stay warm, and as they shared warmth, Miyabi appeared at their window. Tomo, bored of Miyabi's body odor, told her to take a bath. However, soon after, Miyabi began undressing while revealing her mischievous plan, making Tomo reconsider their partnership. The next day, Toru was once again running his punishment marathon on the field before resting in class. Rito then informed them about the upcoming series of battles between them and the second years, explaining that they would fight without their respective partners. On the day of the event, Rito explained that the second years were on the same level as them so everyone could understand what they were up against. Rito seemed excited for the fight, as did Toru, who had clearly forgotten about his near-death experience fighting Rito. While they were all chatting, Lilith suddenly interrupted the second year's warm-up session, challenging everyone to fight her because she was bored. They thought she was joking, so Lilith shot one of them in the face with her rifle to show she was serious. Moments later, the entire second-year class was knocked out, leaving Sakuya frustrated that her event had been cut short. Lilith then decided to take on the entire first-year class as well. That night, at the shopping mall, the students hid in the building's corners, planning an ambush against Lilith with arrows they had prepared. They fired at her, thinking they had finally beaten her. But when the dust settled, they were shocked to see Lilith had caught the arrows with her fingers. Not giving up, they decided to attack all at once, but that only made it easier for Lilith to knock them down one by one, like helpless flies. After dealing with them, Lilith spotted Toru and told him she wouldn't hold back even though she had feelings for him. Lilith prepared to attack, but Toru asked for a break to apologize for the double rejection she'd faced. Lilith thought Toru was trying to ease her burden, but instead, he asked her to transform into her beast mode. Toru genuinely wanted a serious fight, claiming it would help them restart as friends. After considering his odd logic, they both jumped back and got ready, while Lilith began launching her attacks with enthusiasm. Toru hid behind a pillar, wondering why they had to book an entire mall for their fight. Lilith casually responded that she just enjoyed spending money. As Lilith kept firing, Toru dodged the bullets and used his shield to block her shots before trying to counterattack, but he failed. Lilith sensed Tomo's chain and tried to block it, but then Ryutaro joined the attack with his staff. Lilith retreated to a safe spot, quickly reading their immature plan to trap her. Once Lilith was gone, they all jumped down with confidence. Strangely, Miyabi decided to use her rice cakes as cushions for her fall. After Toru helped her up, Tomo gathered everyone to discuss tactics and pulled out a map of the mall so they could devise a plan to catch Lilith at just the right time. A few moments later, they split into two groups and moved toward Lilith's location while checking their surroundings. When they reached a gap, Toru's spider sense started tingling, and suddenly, Ryutaro fell, hit by one of Lilith's earlier shots. Lilith then dropped her camouflage and revealed herself. Before Lilith could shoot them, Toru tried to attack to divert her focus, but his attack failed, and Lilith quickly countered. After leaping to the upper floor and claiming Toru as the main course, Julie jumped after her, intent on capturing her. Toru tried to warn Julie, but it was too late. Julie ended up taking a brutal kick that sent her flying into the glass ceiling. As Julie fell, Lilith tried to finish her off, but Tomo suddenly appeared at the last second to save her. A few moments later, they regrouped to discuss their failure, and Toru noticed that Tomo had been hit by one of Lilith's shots. With Julie's shoulder injured and Miyabi's spear too heavy for close combat, Toru began considering admitting defeat. But that's when Julie realized something important. Moments later, Julie decided to talk to Toru about her weakness. Toru cheered her up and promised to keep protecting her, making Julie feel better. However, not long after, Lilith showed up and reminded them about the battle that was supposed to happen. In a condescending tone, Lilith mocked them all, claiming they were too weak to face her. After that, Lilith started shooting, and Julie wasn't going to back down. Julie charged forward to counterattack. As Lilith tossed her sword aside, Julie managed to activate one of her techniques just in time to block the shot, though it still didn't manage to hit its target. Then it was Aoi's turn to try his luck. Unfortunately, Aoi immediately got hit by a vicious kick to the neck and fell to the floor. Toru tried to get up, but he was shot right in the stomach. Despite that, Toru still claimed that he was where he wanted to be and used his attack to destroy the ground around him. After jumping to escape, Aoi and Julie jumped after him, determined to take down Lilith. However, after Aoi was defeated, they hoped Julie could launch an attack while Lilith was reloading her ammo. It turned out that Lilith surprised them all by shooting Julie into the air and telling Toru that she didn't need to reload. At that moment, Julie managed to slice her arm and drop her gun. They had actually anticipated that shot and were prepared to face it after recalling the earlier mall incident. Toru told Lilith to admit defeat, but she refused to give up and prepared for the next round. However, at the same time, Toru suddenly got shot in the shoulder, and it wasn't from Lilith. It turned out that a squad of armored soldiers appeared and demanded that Lilith attend a meeting with someone named Equipment Smith. Firmly, Lilith refused their demand and accepted the bullets as a consequence. Julie and Aoi immediately charged at the soldiers, but they were easily thrown back. After the leader of the soldiers pointed a weapon at Miyabi's head, Lilith agreed to go with them and apologized to Toru for not finishing the match. Not long after, Toru decided to go retrieve Lilith, and Aoi agreed to help him. Toru told Miyabi to stop acting like a baby and come along. Lilith was riding an escalator with the soldiers when they saw Toru above, demanding that Lilith come back to them. Toru tried to force Lilith, but she refused. The soldiers began raining bullets down on them. In a panic, Toru attacked with a punch that initially seemed ineffective until the ground caved in and the escalator collapsed. Quickly, Toru grabbed Lilith before she could be crushed by the debris, while the others helped deal with the soldiers. After that, Toru helped Lilith activate her gun before they both took down their commander. A little while later, they all decided to have one final duel. To signal the start of the fight, Aoi used the coin toss as a marker. Meanwhile, the main soldier survived and called headquarters to explain their failure. However, his boss seemed more interested in the clash data and all the chaos caused by someone referred to as the Fire Witch. The next day, they went to check on Toru, who was lying in the infirmary after nearly becoming disabled. Shortly after, Lilith appeared to fulfill her promise that they could be friends. After confirming that Toru still wanted to be Julie's partner, Lilith gave him a kiss on the cheek and vowed to make him her future husband.